Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a historic, literally paradigm-shifting identity crisis happening right now within the most famous national team on Earth. Ahead of the 2026 World Cup, the legendary Brazilian national team, the Seleção, is completely tearing up its own DNA. It's a fascinating tactical gamble, and we're going to break down exactly why it's happening, how it works, and ultimately whether it will actually lead them to glory. 24. It's a number that absolutely haunts an entire nation. That is the exact number of years since the most recognizable brand in global sports last won a World Cup. For a country that demands nothing short of absolute perfection on the pitch, 24 years, well, it feels like an absolute eternity.
So the stakes for this upcoming tournament are entirely do or die. You really have to understand the cultural weight here. Carlo Ancelotti himself observed upon taking the job that when Brazil plays, the country stops. Just imagine that. Imagine the pressure of an entire nation's happiness resting squarely on your shoulders. Football isn't merely a sport in Brazil, it's woven directly into the fabric of the nation. The pressure to deliver the trophy in North America this summer is just immense, and this football-obsessed nation is utterly desperate to end this 2.5-decade drought. Okay, let's dive into this. To solve this crisis, Brazil has done the unthinkable. They went out and hired Carlo Ancelotti. The big question dominating global football right now is whether an Italian manager, a guy famous for his rigid European pragmatism, can actually be the savior of Brazilian football. To understand why this is such a huge shock, we really have to look back at their history. Brazil has achieved historical dominance across completely different eras. We're talking 5 World Cup championships, from Pelé announcing himself to the world in 1958 to the incredibly beautiful 1970 squad, all the way up to Ronaldo's devastating efficiency in 2002. No other nation has 5 stars on their crest. But notice how abruptly and painfully the magic just vanishes after 2002? Since then, they just haven't been the same. And things recently went from bad to straight up disastrous. The contrast in their World Cup qualifying campaigns is staggering. In 2018 and 2022, Brazil utterly dominated the notoriously difficult South American qualifiers, finishing first with massive +30 and +35 goal differentials. But fast forward to 2026, they limped into 5th place with a shocking 8 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses. They even suffered an embarrassing 4-1 home defeat to Argentina. It was literally their worst qualifying campaign ever, and it forced a massive reckoning. That reckoning led to a shocking decision, breaking 96 years of tradition. Ancelotti is the first full-time foreign coach for the Seleção in a century. Now, impartially speaking, this appointment sparked deep controversy in Brazil. On one side, domestic critics feel the nation is abandoning its roots. They're quick to point out that all 5 World Cups were won with Brazilian managers. But on the other side, the CBF, the Brazilian Football Confederation, made it crystal clear that their sheer desperation required an extraordinary solution. They felt they needed a proven winner, regardless of his passport. 29. That is the massive number of major trophies Carlo Ancelotti has won in his managerial career. He's the only manager to ever win the Champions League 5 times. He brings an unmatched mastery of high-stakes, single-match knockout football. And in a World Cup, where just one bad night sends you packing, tournament savvy and knockout expertise often trump absolutely everything else. But bringing in Ancelotti means evaluating and drastically altering a deeply romantic historic tradition. We've all heard of Jogo Bonito, the beautiful game. For decades, this philosophy defined Brazilian football. It celebrated individual flair, fluid movement, and players who treated football like literal art. Think Ronaldinho, Kaká, Zico. But Ancelotti evaluated the recent failures and decided that to win in the modern era, Jogo Bonito had to be sacrificed for structure. And this brilliantly illustrates the change. Listen to this direct quote from Vinícius Júnior, Brazil's biggest star. "We're going to defend very well and try to hit on the counterattack." Hearing a Brazilian star publicly embrace a defensive counterattacking strategy, that is a jarring, immediate tactical shift away from their traditional possession-heavy football. The flair is definitely still there, but the foundation is now strictly European pragmatism. So, how does this actually work on the pitch? Well, Ancelotti's tactical blueprint relies on 3 specific steps. First, a compact mid-block defense, meaning they aren't going to exhaust themselves pressing high all game, they'll sit back and stay heavily organized. Second, a robust double pivot midfield to shield that defense and win the ball back.
And third, once they get the ball, rapid counterattacks utilizing the blistering pace of their wingers to punish opponents in transition. Let's move to Lerma and see how this builds the squad's foundation. Because to play a counterattacking style, you absolutely need an ironclad defense. They boast world-class depth at goalkeeper with Liverpool's Alisson and Fenerbahce's Ederson, arguably two of the best in the entire tournament. In front of them, an elite center-back pairing of Marquinhos and Gabriel, and anchoring the midfield, the relentless work rate of Bruno Guimarães alongside the veteran experience of Casemiro. Once that defense wins the ball, they unleash incredible firepower. The attacking arsenal tasked with executing Ancelotti's rapid counters is downright terrifying. You have Vinícius Júnior, the absolute focal point and one of the most dangerous players alive today. You have Rafinha, coming off a sensational season as the primary creator. Matheus Cunha operates as the energetic pressing number 9. And then Endrick, the 18-year-old generational talent. He is the electrifying wild card of the future, fully capable of a stunning moment that can flip a match entirely on its head.
But amidst all this talent, there's a massive elephant in the room: 33. That is the staggering number of injuries Neymar has suffered just since 2015, resulting in almost 4 years of missed football. Taking the 34-year-old to the 2026 World Cup is a massive, heavily scrutinized gamble by Ancelotti. If he's healthy, his vision in tight knockout matches is an incredible X factor. But relying on his fitness is a huge, huge risk. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly balanced the risks and rewards are. On the strength side, we just saw the world-class attacking depth, the elite center backs, and the unmatched goalkeeping. But the weaknesses? They are glaring. Aside from Neymar's fragility, there's an aging midfield where players like Casemiro are carrying significant wear and tear. Plus, there is a critical lack of depth at left back, relying heavily on a 33-year-old Alexandro. And you know those specific weaknesses have historically been exposed by one thing: the European knockout curse. Think about it. 2006 against France, 2010 Netherlands, 2014 Germany, 2018 Belgium, 2022 Croatia. Since winning in 2002, Brazil has exited every single World Cup against the very first European team they face in the knockouts. It's not a coincidence, it is a structural failure against organized, physical European tactics. And this shows exactly why Ancelotti's rigid, pragmatic changes were deemed absolutely necessary. But before they can even worry about the European curse, they have to navigate Group C. Brazil comes in ranked 6th globally, and sure, they're the favorites to advance. But right below them is Morocco, ranked 8th in the world and fresh off a 2022 semifinal run. They represent a severe, highly ranked transition threat in that opening fixture. That's going to be an incredible test. Rounding out the group, they'll face a gritty midfield battle against 43rd ranked Scotland and a deep, underdog low block against Haiti. Brazil should win the group for sure, but Morocco will immediately test Ancelotti's new defensive structure. Which brings us to our final thought. The talent is clearly there. The world's most successful knockout manager is at the helm. But I want to leave you with this provocative question. Is sacrificing the beautiful game actually worth it for a 6-star? If Ancelotti's counter-attacking system wins the World Cup, the 24 years of pain are over, and honestly, nobody will care how it looked. But if they fail, the critics will say they lost their soul for absolutely nothing. It's the ultimate philosophical trade-off in modern sports, and I, for one, cannot wait to watch the drama unfold this summer. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.